Newsroom. Well, the family courts in England and Wales are set for a major change. They will no longer presume that having contact with both parents is automatically in a child's best interest. I know you feel very strongly about this, don't you?
Well, I do, because the government is saying that it will remove that rule from the Children's Act, which has actually been in place since 1989, after campaigners and legal experts have warned that it's putting children at risk in cases involving domestic abuse. So what they're saying is that if, let's say, the father has been accused of abusing the mother or the children, that he should not be automatically given any contact with the child, and certainly not unsupervised contact, in the case of a divorce or separation. But it's already the case that if there are any safeguarding issues, then that person should not be given access, obviously. So there are cases when it's gone wrong, but I'm very concerned that this just means that fathers are going to be cut out of contact, because sadly it is easy to make a claim that someone's being abusive in order to prevent them from having contact with the children, and that will happen. And lots of dads, I mean, there's probably at least 1 million dads who don't have contact with their children already, estimate.
I'm quite glad you raised that, because I kind of skirted over this story initially, but my initial reaction was, look, obviously, if someone is being abusive and all of that, and there have been cases where this has massively backfired, then, you know, that needs to be stopped and things. But I just wondered whether or not this was kind of yet another attack on the nuclear family and fathers and all that, removing that presumption that it's better to have a mum and dad who are together, or just...
And if they can't be together, at least exactly have a relationship with both parents. And I think there's this assumption in the system that kids don't really need dads and they can do quite well without dads, but it's absolutely not true.
They can't. Well,
absolutely,
they can,
at all ages they need a father figure. So, well, somebody who's very impassioned about this issue is the Chief Executive Officer at Both Parents Matter, Sam Morphy. Sam, you're not happy about the change that this government has brought in. Tell us why.
Well, we think this is a regressive move, and unfortunately I think it's based more on ideology rather than actually putting the children first. And we are passionate that children should be properly protected from harm, and that their welfare should be protected. But we do see this as, I mean, the government itself has called the courts having a pro-contact culture. And we do see this as a regressive move. I mean, we've had huge strides in the last few years, the last few decades, of the role of fathers and fatherhood being valued. But we do see this as a regressive move, which does risk moving back the clock several decades to a period where one parent, the resident parent, which is more often than not the mums, has the opportunity and has the ability to control the relationship between the other parent and the child. And without that benchmark of the presumption which you described, we do think that this is a step in the wrong direction. We think there'll be an increase in litigation. We think there'll be an increase in delays. And the end result, that we don't believe that this will actually protect children where protection is necessary. It will actually move us to a situation where more and more children are harmed by not having a loving, positive relationship with a loving and positive dad.
But Sam, what campaigners for this change would say, and one of the key campaigners has been a lady called Claire Throssell, who tragically her sons were killed deliberately by her ex-husband in a house fire after they were given unsupervised contact. She would say, and the campaigners would say, that this change is needed to prevent tragedies like that from happening again.
I mean, an absolutely tragic case, and she's been a wonderful campaigner for the welfare and the safety of children.
Hey, I'm Sukhdev Uppal, and I've been trading for over a decade. I'm one of the head traders here at Smart Charts. Do you want to know what to trade, when to trade, and how to trade daily? Yes, you've been scratching your head and trying to answer that question, and now I'm about to show you how you do it. It's called...
I think the problem here, though, is not the legislation, it's the actual practice. In that particular case, there were multiple failings by the Children's Services Authority, failings by the judge, failings of monitoring the actual situation. I think the problem here was not the actual piece of legislation, it was actual practice and the failure to follow pre-existing safeguards. And that's what we're campaigning for. We want improved safeguards, we want improved monitoring, evidence-based risk assessments. And we do think that this change of legislation is more symbolic than anything else. And we do think it is part of possibly playing to their own audience, maybe being slightly squeamish about fatherhood, and wanting to play to their own backbenches as well, rather than actually generally putting the welfare of children first. And I think if you are to put the welfare of children first, you need to look at all harms across the family court system. unfortunately, the whole report, and I fear the government's thinking, is based around belief that fathers are harmful and mothers are entirely safe. We know it's far more complicated than that. If we're going to look at if the government is serious about looking at the harm towards children in the family court system, they need to look at all harms. They need to look at harm as well as being caused by the resident parent and the non-resident parent. They need to look at both sides of the issue here, because harm can be caused both by mums and dads. They also need to look at the harm of children where they are denied a relationship for no good reason other than obstruction by the resident parent. They need to look at abuse, not just by the resident parent, the non-resident parent towards the resident parent. They need to look at abuse the other way around, which does happen as well. They need to look at the harm that children suffer when they're weaponised in the family court system, where one parent, it could be the mum, it could be the dad, is using the child to essentially alienate them against the other parent. And they also need to look at the tragic cases, of which the Claire Fossil case was, of course, one. There's plenty of others where a child has died in the care of the resident parent. We need to look at, were there cases where, had the non-resident parent been involved, another pair or safe eyes on that child, could those tragedies have been prevented? So we're totally in favour of what the government's doing, but you need to look at both sides.
Sam, thank you very, very much. Very important topic, of course. Sam Morphy there is the Chief Executive Officer at Both Parents Matter. Yeah, kind of a symbolic, potentially slightly pointless piece of legislation.
I agree, and they're repealing something that's been in place since 1989. It's quite a big change.
Remember Fathers for Justice?
Yeah.
And I wonder if we're going to start seeing a return to, blokes dressed up as